Hello everyone, and welcome to the final round of the 2018 European Club Cup. It's Peter Svidler versus Magnus Carlsen on board 1, well, the outcome of this match on all of the 6 boards will largely impact the outcome of the entire 2018 European Club Cup. So without further ado, let's check out their scores before this encounter. So before this encounter, Peter Svidler has beaten Magnus Carlsen 2-1 in classical chess with 14 draws, but if we consider faster time controls, then Magnus Carlsen has beaten Peter Svidler 11-7 with 24 draws. So a very nice opportunity for Carlsen to equalize this score, even though with the black pieces. And we do have a nice photo by Nxe4 from this matchup. There you have it. Before the start of the game, a lot of people in the crowd, and also one gentleman taking either a shot or some nice video. We don't have any video footage from this round, as Nikki says it was a pretty crazy round. Not really sure what she meant by that, but apparently it was really crazy. But feel free to follow her on all of her social media. The links will be in the description below. Also follow Chess in Greece YouTube channel. They always have a lot of impressions with a lot of video footage from every round. So I will also put a link to that in the description below. Feel free to enjoy that as well. So now, without further ado, Svidler has the white pieces and he opens with e4. Carlsen opens with c6. We have d4 and d5. And it's very interesting, sorry about that, on all of the 6 boards, Svidler's team is higher rated on every board except on this one, where, of course, Carlsen is higher rated as he is the highest rated player in the world. The Caro-Kann is on the board, knight d2, d captures on e4, knight captures on e4, and now knight to f6. This is the main line. Knight captures, we have e captures on f6, and now c3. Further strengthening the center. Bishop to d6 by Carlsen and bishop to d3. We have castles and queen to c2, and here Carlsen plays rook to e8 check. Lichess posted on Twitter that Carlsen already played this position in one bullet game on Lichess against GM The Warning. So I thought that was pretty funny. Okay, bishop to e3, blocking check, and now h6. As the h7 pawn was under attack, knight to e2, preparing to castle, and now comes the knight to a6. Here Carlsen is preparing to bring the knight over to c7, and although it seems like you could capture the knight here and mess up a black's pawn structure, you won't really gain anything here. After b captures on a6, yes, you have messed up a black's pawn structure a bit, but where are you gonna castle? If you castle queenside, then black has a semi-open b file for his rook, and if you decide to castle kingside, then black will put a bishop on b7, and with the bishop pair, it will be a very dangerous position to play for black. So nothing really to gain from this. After knight to a6, we have castles, and here comes knight to c7, as planned. c4 by Svidler, as now this takes away the b and the d5 squares from the knight, and also keeps very nice control of the central squares. And bishop to g4, Carlsen develops his bishop. h3, Svidler asks, what are your plans with this bishop? Of course, you don't really have the option of going bishop to h5, as the queen and bishop are guarding g6 twice if you will have to retreat. So here Carlsen's idea was to capture here. And it's a very interesting... what do you capture with the bishop or with the queen? If you capture with the queen, this isn't so great, because now black has this very nice option of strengthening his position with the g6. And of course you cannot capture on h6 because you would lose your queen. And now black will at some point play king g7 and f5, and all will be well for black. So in fact, bishop captures on e2 is the better idea. Now of course g6 makes no sense, white can simply capture it. So knight to e6. We have rook 8 to d1, developing the rook, queen to c7, developing the queen, also connecting rooks, bishop to g4, and now comes rook 8 to d8. Rook f to e1, and here bishop to f4 by Carlsen, offering a trade of bishops. Svidler accepts this, bishop captures, we have knight captures on f4, and now comes rook captures on e8. Rook captures on e8, and now h4. If you play something other than h4, h4 is the strongest move here. If you play something like b3, for example, to strengthen your queen side, then black can play h5 himself. And after bishop to f3, You can go queen to c8, and then, well, regardless of what white plays, the black can get a very nice attack with the g5 and the g4 and so on. So Svidler decided to play h4 himself. Now g5 will not be all that impressive, because if h5 now, bishop to f3 and g5, you can simply play g3, attacking the knight here. And after something like g4, attacking the bishop, bishop to g2, captures, and now the structure here is fixed. And okay, Carlsen does have 2 f pawns, so he will probably try to break through here at some point, but you know, there's no reason to do this. Svidler decides to play this, and Carlsen plays queen to a5. A very nice move, as it attacks the a2 pawn, but also controls the e1 square that the rook is eyeing. So rook to e1 check is definitely a move that will happen at some point. We have g3, again the best move, kicking away the knight and also making some more breathing space for the king. f5, a nice in-between move by Carlsen, and now bishop to f3. You don't gain anything by playing something like g captures on f4, f captures, and then d5 would be very dangerous. If rook to d8, then even captures on c6, captures, and now rook captures, queen captures, and although this would be playable, there's no reason to risk it. You do have a nice bishop here, so why not keep it? Bishop to f3 by Svidler, and now rook to e1 check, as Carlsen did play queen to a5 to prepare this. King to h2, definitely the best move. If you try something like rook captures on a1, sorry about that, rook captures on e1, queen captures on e1 with check, and now king to h2. Now you get this very dangerous knight to e6 move, and it's not possible to both guard the d4 pawn and also guard the f2 pawn. The queen can guard the f2 pawn, but it's very hard to guard the d4 pawn. You would have to push d5 here, and now knight to d4 will win you the game for black, as again you can protect your bishop here and also protect the f2 pawn. You might play something like queen to d3, now comes queen captures on f2, and after you play this, now you can simply push g5, and there is no stopping g4 and knight to f3. This will be winning for black. One such variation could be captures, and after white tries d6, king to f8 will be sufficient to stop the advance of the d pawn, and whatever white plays, g4 is coming. Queen to f1, knight to f3 check, king here, queen captures, and now whatever you play, bishop captures, pawn captures. White will be without a move for the rest of the game, as he will always have to keep an eye on this queen to g2 checkmate, and it will be an easy win for black. So after rook to e1 check, king to h2 by Svidler, rook captures on d1, queen captures on d1, and now comes knight to g6. Now knight to e6 wouldn't be all that impressive, because now d5 would be somewhat dangerous. After c captures, now knight has to move, knight to f8. Already d6 is coming and comes with an attack against this pawn, so would be a very dangerous position for black. So Carlsen goes knight to g6 with the idea of going knight to f8 to d7. a3, finally Svidler has to guard the a2 pawn, and now comes f4. As the f pawns are doubled, why not waste one to break open Svidler's king side? We have bishop to e4, and now comes f captures on g3 with check. Pawn captures on g3, and now knight to f8 by Carlsen, not allowing any captures and the doubling of the pawns, and also the knight will be a very useful piece to defend the advance of the d pawn. Svidler does push d5, we have c captures on d5, and now although other captures are possible, Svidler decides to trade queens here. Queen captures, and Carlsen accepts, as there is no better move here. Queen captures, we have bishop captures, and now comes b6, you have to guard the pawn, and now b4. Svidler would very much enjoy creating a pass pawn here with c5, so Carlsen prevents it, knight to d7, and we have king to g2. Now Svidler wants to bring his king into the game, and Carlsen does the same, as it's the endgame, you do have to use your king. King to f2, knight to f6 now, and now bishop to f3. Again, we have this very nice mutual encounter between the bishop and the knight, where they control each other's squares. King to e7, king to e3, king to d6, and king to d4. Now the kings are in opposition. Knight to g8, we have c5 check, we have captures. Svidler now creates a passed c pawn, king to c7, and bishop to d5, now attacking the f7 pawn. This is move 39. Carlsen plays knight to e7 for his 39th move, and now Svidler has to make one more move to reach time control. So there are several options here. If you capture the pawn, then you get knight to f5 with check, and you're going to lose the g3 pawn, king e5, knight captures, and g3. So not something you want to do with the white. Svidler, instead, you could also play something like h5, but then a similar variation arises after knight to f5 check. King e5, knight captures on g3, and only now bishop captures on f7, where you would guard your h5 pawn. But now after king to c6, king to f4, now you can simply capture with the knight here. And after captures, you can capture here, and this will be a forced draw. At some point, you would try to protect your only pawn. If black manages to grab the a pawn, then it will be a draw. This bishop to e2 move was very nice because the bishop and pawn create a wall here against the black king, but the black king will simply go underneath it. King to c3, and now after a4 you will either play bishop to d1, after which simply this, and at some point the king will have to go for the h6 pawn, and then you will start advancing your g pawn, and when the pawn comes to g4, bishop will capture it, and then you will win this pawn, and it will be a draw. On the other hand, if you don't go bishop here, if you go bishop to b5, similar idea, h5, and now after king attacks at g6, and the idea is the same. You will simply capture with the king here, and now after this pawn starts advancing, you will simply have to position your bishop to capture it, and only then will you capture the a4 pawn and draw the game. So pretty much a drawn variation, this h5 idea. So Svidler goes for king to e5 on his 40th move to reach time control. Carlsen snatches the bishop, knight captures, king captures, and now we have h5. And okay, c6. We have a6 by Carlsen, a4, and now a5, trying to force white to move the king. So king to c5, getting opposition. Now comes f6. We have king to d5, and now g5. Of course, if you try something like h captures on g5, then f captures on g5 will be winning for black. This creates a very dangerous pass pawn, and this will in fact be a very, very fast pawn. So you will not be able to prevent him from queening. After g5, we have king to e6 by Svidler. Going after the f6 pawn, we have captures, 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 captures. And here we have this very interesting endgame position, a very symmetrical position, and it's very interesting. What do you play here after this g captures on h4? What does black play here? So feel free to pause the video here and try to continue this game for black, just to try and get the sense of the position. I'll give you a couple of seconds if you want to decide whether to do it or not. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are truly an excellent endgame player. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, you can play king d7, king d6, king d5, but if you try king c5 to go after this pawn on a4, you will lose the game, because after king to g5, king to b4, and you will not be able to snatch the pawn in time. Captures, captures, and now you will get a similar position like from the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer. Well, it will not come with check. Both players will queen, but now queen captures queen, as they are both queening on this diagonal. So very interesting stuff. But okay, if you go anywhere on the other side, for example, king to d6, like the move that was played in the game, then you will not lose this game. King to g5, king to e5, we have king captures, and now king to f5. King to h6, king to f6, we have h5, king to f7. Now the king escapes, but now comes king g7. We have h6 with check, king moves, and now king to h5. King moves, king comes to g6, king g8, and now comes h7, and after king to h8, the players agreed to a draw. It seems like a weird position for you to draw the game, as you are up a pawn, and perhaps you can even start running away to grab this pawn and queen, but you will not be in time. For example, if you in fact try this, for example, d5, king f5, king c5, king e5, king b5, king d5, and king captures, you will simply block off the king, and the king will not be able, you will create a wall against the white king, and the white king will not be able to push you away. At one point, the white king will have to move, and now you will occupy the a8 square, and there is no more ways to queen this pawn. Now after a couple of moves, you will either have to move your king and allow black to capture this pawn, or you will play king to a6, and now it will be a stalemate. So, of course, they knew this. After this king to h8 move by Carlsen, Svidler and Carlsen decided to draw the game, and it seems Svidler will keep his positive score against Carlsen for yet another encounter, and Carlsen, for not losing this game, will keep his his position as the #1 rated chess player in the world, and I don't think he will be playing any more rated games before he faces Fabiano. So in the match against Fabiano Caruana in November, Carlsen will still be the highest rated player in the world. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it was a educational endgame. That whole king business. Like I said, there will be a lot of useful links in the description below, so feel free to follow Chess in Greece, feel free to follow Nikki Riga on all of her social media. Just check it out and feel free to enjoy it. I would like to thank Franz Hilba, Jose Paul, Lemo Muro, Miles Hayford, and Ian Fowler for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon, hopefully with some more interesting content. I don't know who the winner of the European Club Cup is, as some of the games were still being played, but Carlsen's Valerenga team did, I believe they haven't won because one of their boards, Borki Predojevic, blundered a piece somewhere around move 25, so it was a pretty big blow for them, and Niels Grindelis lost his game. So yeah, basically that's it. Follow all of their social media for further updates. Thank you all for watching, and see you soon. Most likely continuing the Bobby Fischer series. See you soon.